Yo, back with another edition of Pro Tips for Beginners on MotoGP 26 this year. It's more or less the same as 25 in a lot of ways, but there are nuances. And before anyone looks at the activate Windows thing at the bottom of the screen, it's because I've reinstalled Windows. Hang on. I've done something with my hard drives and put it on a motherboard that has got a registered Windows, but I think this is Pro and that one's got a home on it. I've got so many flipping computers, I get mixed up with them, but it's working alright. I can't be asked to flipping worry about it at the moment. So, got that out of the way. I can afford real Windows, but at the minute I can't be bothered to put it in properly. I haven't had a lot of time to play this particular version because I'm a lot busier than I was a year ago, but I've played it enough to be able to sort of give it a bit of a breakdown. Same as last time, there's not going to be a lot of me game playing, although there will be a little bit on this one because there's one or two particular nuances that I will have to do a little bit of gameplay, probably just to sort of show you it. Right, so let's run through some stuff that. Hell, this is how long since I've. Let me get on here. Where are we? I don't want to do continue career. Let's just go to some settings because that's what I was trying to get to. Right, so as before. Obviously, if you want an easy life, just go with arcade experience. I never actually played arcade at all on the old game. I was just guessing that it was super easy. But because I got this on the day of release, before the update, which has cured a lot of the problems that the game had, I did have a go on the arcade. And not only on arcade version will it be easier, but also when you're playing the game properly, like on career mode, it won't let you change tyres and things like that. I don't think you got fuel, all that type of thing. So yeah, it's not great. Basically, arcade mode, you're not going to get much of a proper experience with it. I didn't realise that even on the old game it was. I mean, it's alright if you just literally want to roll around the track, but if you're only going to play arcade mode, and you've already got MotoGP 25, I'd say it's almost pointless bothering to buy this game, because it's just going to not really offer anything. Adaptive difficulty, I've not tried it again, but I'm assuming it's the same as before, in fact, I did try it on the old game in the end, just a little bit, because obviously I've had it a year. What would basically happen, if you put adaptive difficulty on, you'd probably sort of win a race, and then you'd do the next one, and then it'd be rock hard, and you'd be like nowhere. So to make it a bit more sort of stabilised, I tend to use the AI difficulty. The reason I've got it on 80 is because the last time I was playing career mode properly was on 25 in the MotoGP class. And because I had mods on, I started off with the corrected pilots mod, which basically made it so that the Marquez brothers were basically winning all the time. If I had it on my sort of usual 90, I had no chance of being anywhere sort of beating them in the championship. On 80, I could beat them, but only just if I didn't change it for the whole season. So I'd have some races where I'd win fairly easily, and then I'd have others where I'd probably sort of just keep getting just outside the podium, and over the course of the season that'd just balance out. So I've just left it at that. But probably if you was going to start the game off in Moto 3, or I was going to, I'd probably have it on 90. What I usually did to work out what difficulty I have is I'd do my first race, where I don't bother with the qualifying or anything, start off in last, whatever I can difficulty I can come like in the points on, that's where I'd start off, and then if I started winning a load of races, I'd turn it up a bit and go from there basically. And I ended up settling, I think, like I say, on, well, when I did the mods, on 80. On this game, neural steering, I have tried it. It's weird. I found that what it'll do is it'll make it so that you can't take the line that you necessarily want to. I mean, if you're just doing hot laps, neural steering might help you to get a better lap time, but if you was actually in a race, it will probably cause you to end up turning in or doing something stupid when there's bikes all over the place. So in terms of actually playing the game properly, I would say don't use it. Neural brakes, similar again. I did find actually though, before the update, that was actually quite useful to get you around the track while you tried to get the feel of the game, although on certain tracks or certain corners it'd stitch you up, because it'd literally be like, I think on Sepang, I think it was, where you got that long start finish straight, it'd brake too early, so you couldn't take the flipping optimum line round there, and that'd cost you probably like a second and a half off your lap time. So to get yourself just a lap on the scoreboard, yeah, it was good, but if you want a fast lap, you're never really going to do it with neural brakes. So if you're desperate to do something with a game or you really can't do a track, I'd say it works. But if you use it at, say, Austin, flipping out, it's awful. It leaves the braking too late on there, and you'll just end up flying straight off the track, so it's a bit pointless. Neural throttle, what I found with that was you've still got to really control the throttle. If you just leave your finger pressed on the trigger, even with the traction control and everything turned up, it'll still flipping end up spinning out and spitting you off. So if you've got to control it anyway, well, you might as well just use normal throttle. So I didn't find it done anything. If you select moderate on any of these settings, it literally done nothing. So I would say that the neural brakes one can be useful if you're trying to learn a track, maybe in some cases, but you just got to be aware that you're not going to get the flipping best laps out of the track, and in some cases it'll end up stitching you up and you'll just end up running off the track. But it certainly seems more useful than on previous games. Trajectory aids, I never ever use them anyway, because I find the racing line and all that causes me more distraction and problems than if I have it off. Proximity indicators, so he knows round you. I don't like any of that stuff. Long lap I'd normally have on assisted. Leave that. Joint brakes. Before I generally always had them off, but the thing is this year we haven't got ABS, and also the physics have altered, so that what happens a lot of the time is you'll find that the flipping back end comes round quite a lot. It isn't anywhere near as bad since the update, but it was ridiculous on release day. So they have made it better, but I generally keep the electronic braking and the slipper clutch down to minimum, which sort of makes it a lot better. If you have the joint brakes on, because it puts the back brake on, even though it's only like 25% probably on this game, to be fair, it still can be enough to end up making the back come round on you. So I would say that as often as not, having joint brakes on actually works against you. You're better off. Some of the time on my laps, if I'm trying to go fast, I don't even bother touching the back brake. That's as easy to work out the optimum braking point just using the front and then just controlling the front. That's what I think. So on this particular game, you're going to need to experiment, but I would say at least 50% of the time you're going to want them off, and probably overall for reliability, like if you was playing online or something, I'd say I'll have them off. Transmission, before I think you only had semi-automatic and manual. This time you got the 3. You want semi-automatic. If you go automatic, you've basically got no manual control over the gears at all. Obviously, a hardcore player is going to go for manual, but if you put it on semi, you can change up and down yourself as well with the buttons. If you're in the wet, for example, and you want to get maximum drive, what I tend to do is on the straights, I'll flick it on the dry map, because that's you've only got 2 maps on this game, and then I'll change up myself using the button, because otherwise if you let it go into the red line, it will just spin up and flipping you'll overheat your tyre. So in that situation you do need to use the gearbox yourself, but otherwise I generally like to leave it on that. Start and clutch, again, it's just at the beginning of the race, you just let go of the button when the lights change. Electronics wise, obviously if you stick it on assisted, you get anti-wheelie in Moto 3, which you really don't need on this game. The bikes don't really wheelie any amount, which they wouldn't in real life anyway. And in Moto 2, again, they don't really wheelie too much. And the traction control doesn't really seem to do anything when I've sort of experimented with it. If anything, it seems like when you put the traction control on, it seems to make it so you've got less control over the throttle and it's worse. So I've found that it's best to leave it on real electronics, and obviously it don't make any difference on the MotoGP class. Ride height device, I always leave on semi-automatic, although I very, very rarely activate it myself. And that is it for that. Let's go to a track, and I'll show you what I mean with in the wet. So if I set it on race settings, where are we? I did have, yeah, I am still the fastest wet weather rider on that track. So all I've done at the moment, a lot of the time in the wet, is I've just used I've got setups that I've already posted that work for all tracks and all that, all weathers. So if I just load that in, that'll be that one, all tracks. That's basically the setup that I had on 25, but it seemed to work alright. Let's run through the setup. Right, so you can see here you haven't got a power map on there. Obviously I've gone with max traction control and anti-wheelie because it's for every track. As I said, engine brake, I do sort of experiment a bit and try and turn it up, but every time almost you turn it up, you're just causing yourself problems. And on the transmission as well, like I say, the slipper clutch, that's best left on the lowest one. If you're struggling as well, like if it's sort of sliding the back a bit too much, especially on acceleration, you can sort of play around with the gear ratios if you can see what gear it's in when it's doing it, and that might give you a little bit more control. Obviously these are the gear ratios I found that work generally fairly well all the time. Rear brake, because like I said with the backing in problem, if you can change the disc, I always go for the smallest disc on the rear. And on the front I've sort of gone for the 13-inch. On some tracks that's going to be your smallest disc. Obviously the extreme cooling one's going to sort of work better than the standard one on the long straights, and it doesn't really seem like you get any less sort of braking power out of it or anything. It just takes a little bit longer to heat up. So I guess your initial braking could be slightly worse, but generally speaking for all round I've found that. But if, say for example, I was just going to do this track now in the wet, I'd most likely just select the 12-inch standard, because obviously in the wet you're not going to have the disc heat. So I will do that now, because the front with no ABS, still does have a habit of washing out quite a bit. So bear in mind I haven't played this for a few days, so I don't know how to get on right. So in the wet, you'll see down there that on the power setting that's flashing up with a triangle, because obviously it's wet weather. So we'll just go down there, select wet. That makes a massive difference. If I was to be on dry weather setup now, that would be flipping sliding out like mad. But what I'll do, right, I'll flick it into dry, and I'm now, that's actually changing gear, alright. Right, I'll flick it back down to wet for here. I've probably gone in too hot. Trying to just do it all off the front brake. I was just going to try and demonstrate that when that starts wheel spinning out. I mean, the game don't look too bad now they've done the update, but trust me, before they done the update on release day, this in this class was, well, it was just flipping absolutely rock hard. I would say that the physics compared to 25 are a little bit more realistic. You'll see there if you look at the how I'm pressing the front brake, I'm sort of dabbing the lever rather than just holding it on, because if you just hold it on to the apex, you're going to wash out straight away. I'm just going to try and, I bet I'm going to wash out. Yeah, you'll see it, that'll wash out. Oh, it won't. I bet it's because I've put the smaller disc on, isn't it? Usually, if you hold the brake on like that, it will just wash out. Anyway, right, so I've let it off. So let's say I stick it in drive now. You're going to see. Have they done another update? Because before when I done this was just spinning up like mad. It's actually working all right now. All right, well, one tip was to flick it, do the gears yourself, but for some reason on this setup at least, it's right. You see, I just lost the front there, although that was on the rumble strip. I'm just trying to think what other tips I've got, to be honest, because I haven't. One of the problems with the game when it came out was you couldn't select different tyres. What I will say, if I was doing a career game, when you do, let's see if I can get it. I don't even know where I am on career. Probably not far. Right, so if you want to get straight into the MotoGP class, what I've done is I've started the game. In fact, I'll start it again so you can see what I would suggest doing. Obviously, Moto 3 is going to be easier to do, but the main game is basically the main class in it. So if you want to go straight in for the main class, which most people I've sort of spoke to on the channel do, obviously select your main class. On the transfer market, I would say from the second season, so that way at least you get a season with the riders that you got now. I personally don't like having the sprint activated. You can if you want, but it's just like you're doing the same race twice, and you got 22 rounds, so it does take quite a bit of play time to get through. As far as choosing the bikes, I'm not going to say I've comprehensively tested them all, but I have done a track setup, and I've found that the Ducati, generally, that's my pick. I would say that's the easiest one. Probably my second choice would be the Trackhouse. The Honda, it's not as bad as on the last game, because I found the Honda to be completely hopeless on the last game, but I still don't really like it. I'd probably say that one's fairly sweet handling, but it's a bit slow. So yeah, that'd be my first pick, that second, that third, and then the KTM if you want to start and the Honda if you want to have a really difficult time. Obviously, riding style, if you're playing the whole game, whatever style you want, it does make a difference to how the game plays. I never bother with braking leg out. That ain't going to make too much difference. I have been playing with braking fingers 1. I did find on the last game that the number of braking fingers you had did affect your control of the brake. So I've sort of kept it at 1, although given that the game's had an update, it'd probably be alright with 2. It was best on 2 on the last game. So go there. Right. So I'm a big fan of going for development. So with this bit here where you got your press conference, this is kind of like where you can decide what you do. So I would just go straight for development, whatever that is. So even you'll get a better bike. Change role, team leader. So you can see there's little arrows there. If I go to that second one, look, I've got a double arrow for laying solid foundation, so I'd go for that. Because at the end of the day, with all the prestige and all that stuff for getting different teams in the next season, if you've won the title, you're most likely going to have a lot more choices than, you know, if you don't win the title, even if you go for the more prestige ones. It doesn't really tell you on this one which you're going to get a thing. So I'd probably, if you want to make the game easier, I'd probably select the rider out of the 3 that you think's going to be easiest to beat. And going by their performance this year, I'd probably say Alex Rins, as he's on a fairly shit bike. You got to do all the test session. Right, so for the test session, what I usually do, I can't be asked to do the tests, but going from how I was playing career mode on the last game is, right, so finish your test, wrong button, finish test. And then what I'd do is I'd try and go for the most balanced thing. So if you go, you've got your little thing at the left hand side there showing you all your different attributes. So obviously this has got aerodynamics as the best. So you can see there, if you switch it, it goes to that. I would probably say go for that one, aerodynamic load, and probably go for that. So that way you're getting a fairly sort of balanced development. I found generally playing the old game in career mode, if you can develop quite a good balanced bike, that'll work quite well for you. Hang on, let's get out of that. Another thing I used to like to do is go into bike development and hit team comparison. So obviously that's my bike. When you do come to the end of a round, you'll have the team manager asking you, or they'll select something to develop. So you can either go along with that, or you can tell them what you want to develop. So with the Lenovo being the factory team, and looking at this graph, I'll be looking to probably develop the frame the most, because that's where my bike's lacking. So that's what I'd be aiming for. Right. I'm trying to think if there's any other bits that I've missed. I think that's about it. I mean, if you just do that, that'll probably give you a fairly easy career, I would have said, to get you started. Any questions, you can always put them down in the comments. I know I don't do the flashiest videos and all that, or get too excited about it, but you know, I am a big fan of these games. I do really enjoy playing them, and I enjoy doing the setups as much as anything. So I've tested the all-round setup for all tracks based on last year's game on a couple of tracks, and I've also tried it on the wet tracks as well, and that works all right on all the categories of all the bikes. They're pretty good. That's the other thing I was going to say. When you do your practicing for the round, which I should have said, this is another tip I didn't give you. I will do that if you're still here. Right, so you always want to do that practice so that obviously you can get into your next qualifying. However, because on this occasion you can see it's going to be a sunny race, what I would probably do is have free practice too. Let's say you can't be asked to do that one, you'll just start in qualifying 1. Because you do get quite a decent amount of tyres to play with.
Good morning from
what I like to do, because even if you play the game multiple times, you'll find that. Right, so what I like to do is start off with the soft front and rear, and I usually just, this is one fault with the game, is this, you can't quite like go up as incrementally, but get enough fuel for a couple of laps.
The rider mixes.
So do a couple of laps, see how you get on. See what, just sort of try and observe what the tyres are doing, how the bike feels. So you can see that's backing in there fairly heavily already. Hence why I don't like having linked brakes. I tend to put them both on, then just go with the front. I mean, yeah, it's redding up a bit, but you're still getting stopping power. Anyway, you don't want to watch me doing this. So when you've done that bit,
the director offering up.
You've looked at your wear rates, all that. What I would do next, because you can see you've got quite a few front soft tyres, but you ain't got many mediums, so you don't want to be burning through them too quick. So I usually stick a fresh front in next, and then I usually go for a fresh medium. See how my lap times go. If I'm faster, when I come in the next time, I'll keep that medium rear and then I'll go for a medium front. If I'm not faster, I'll switch back to a soft rear and then I'll put the medium front on. And then obviously if I've whatever's given me the best time, that's what I'll use for qualifying. And in the race, well, obviously if I'm using a soft, I'll usually put mediums on, or a hard if there's an option. Occasionally I might play with the hard as well. So let's say I'd gone for this setup here and it seemed like the medium was overheating, I might well go out and do another run with the hard. So yeah, that's the final tip for you. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope it helps your game.
The second free practice ends here.
If this is the only videos you ever watch of mine, well, you'll hear me again perhaps next year on 2027. Thank you very much.